建筑会线上的朋友们，大家下午好！欢迎您在周四下午的3点半来到直播间，跟建筑会一起了解行业里的那些事儿。本期公开课，我们请到了 GIB 再次来到我们的直播间。这次的嘉宾有 Gordon White、Dan Reynolds、Terry Lee， 也都是观众朋友们非常熟悉的面孔。Thank you guys for coming to our webinar today. 他们将分别带来以下内容的详解。Gordon 会为大家讲解 GIB allocation 制度、分配制度什么时候才会停用，以及新工厂建设情况的更新。Dan 会为大家带来技术方面的更新，尤其是关于如何找到 Technical Supplement Guide， 还有 Wet Area System 的 update， 以及 Intertenancy System Barrierline 的 update。最后呢 Terry 会给我们带来关于工地准备接收石膏板的流程。今天我们同样欢迎有疑问的朋友在登录后花园后给我们进行留言互动，或者在群内留言都是可以的。但是由于时间关系，我们可能没有机会回答每一个问题。不过您的问题如果没有得到回答，我们也会在直播结束后由GIB的嘉宾们给出书面回复。观众朋友们可以通过群聊或者是私聊我的形式拿到您的答案。最重要的呢，就是不要错过留言提问的机会以及本期直播的干货。想要加入我们的微信群聊，可以在直播详情页找到进群的二维码。如果您已经在一个群聊内是不需要重复进群的。然后我们3位嘉宾的邮箱这种联系方式也是可以在直播详情页找到的。好，那么我将开始分享屏幕，嘉宾们也会开始今天的演讲内容。Okay, guys, I'm gonna start sharing my screen, and just whenever you're ready, we'll start the presentation today.
Cool.
Okay. Can you both see my screen? Can you all see my screen now? Yeah. Just whenever you're ready.
Okay. Well, firstly, so thank you for the introduction, Lily. My name's Gordon White. I'm going to just sort of give you a brief update on where we are from a plasterboard allocation perspective, and I'll just sort of probably spend about 10 minutes or so talking through on that. And then if you do have any questions as we go through, then Lily will have sort of send those through to us, but we'll try and answer your questions as best we can at the end of the presentation. And if we don't get to them, then of course we're more than happy to answer anyone's sort of post meeting or any specific things you may have. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you for your support over these times. I'd like to sort of recognise that saying it's been difficult is an understatement for the industry, and we do sincerely apologise for the issues that this has arisen. I'll sort of cover off how we got to this point, but we really do feel for the industry and are doing everything we possibly can to get us out of an allocation mode as quickly as we possibly can. But I have a lot of respect for the industry and for the work that the trade customers do. And as I said, we'll try and get out of this as quickly as we can, because we really do know and feel the impact for customers on this as well. So Lily, if we just get into things on that next slide, and we'll just talk. So first off, what I was just going to cover off very quickly is just a little bit of back history of how do we get into that allocation mode. But what I'd like to spend is really the most amount of time of, hey, what are the steps and where are we at in terms of being able to head towards getting out of an allocation mode, and obviously that's what we want to all get to. So when we talk about how do we get to where we are now, and we might have covered this in previous presentations, but so if you've heard this, please accept my apologies, and but it's worthwhile mentioning. So back in late 2021 through to February this year, we had a massive amount of order volume come through, that far exceeded the actual expected volumes, but also far exceeded the level of capacity for the industry. So as a bit of a reference, arguably you could say that the New Zealand industry can build roughly about 40,000 consents. We were seeing orders coming in at that time that were well over 80,000 consents, so essentially double the amount of capacity that would ordinarily be seen. To put some perspective around that as well, at the time of at that time we were producing around about 700,000 square meters a week. That's equivalent of about 300 40-foot containers, or about 1,000 homes. At that time as well, what we also had is, the supplementary imported material, so the plasterboard that we would get made to GIB specifications if we needed it from overseas. Basically, that became unavailable for a good period of 2021 due to the Australian market just being, so hot as well. They turned off supply, so that didn't help things. And this little graph down the bottom that you may see with the little cute houses, the green on the right left-hand side there is just the normal order volumes we saw back in July, and then the ones on the right-hand side is basically the amount of order volume that we had come through, really in January and February, and sort of gives you a bit of an idea of how much more volume was coming through. Okay, I'll just go to the next one. So what that all meant is that we had to announce in February that we needed to move to an allocation system from July onwards. One of the reasons why we didn't go straight into allocation and saying to there is that there was a huge wedge of orders that we needed to get through first, and personally I think it would have been better, now that we know what we did, to just go straight into that. That probably would have been a lot less stressful for customers, but it's one of the learnings that had to come out of this. So one of the questions that comes up most frequently, and I guess what people really want to know about around allocation, is, hey, what and we're actually getting out of allocation? Because obviously ourselves the most, but obviously the impact it's having on your businesses is fundamental, and we need to work as quickly and efficiently as we can to get to a point where you have a level of equilibrium. So one of the first things that's been done, or that we announced back in July, is that an additional 1 million square meters of board, which is approximately about 8% additional volume, coming through in the next 3 months. So basically from July onwards, there's more volume coming through. How that's been achieved is basically much more production capability coming through. So from our own plants, we've got one in Auckland and one in Christchurch. There's incremental operational improvements from basically better drying machinery coming through, and a number of other initiatives that are continually coming through. So we're hoping to basically have more volume coming through, and that's coming through at the moment. Also, as well, what we've seen is the Australian demand side, so the Australian market really cool off much more than what the New Zealand market has. So that's also allowed us to have much more plasterboard made to GIB specifications to actually start coming through. So the first of that is hitting our shores now, the recommitments of that is coming through now, and we are looking to get as much supply as we possibly can from that Australian market. But obviously shipping is a bit of an issue, as everyone will no doubt recognise. We're also, one of the other factors around this is also making sure that we continue to improve how we get stock to customers. A lot has been learnt about trying to make sure that the material is getting to those customers who are in a position to line now. And I'm not throwing any stones around people holding stock and that sort of thing, because to be frank, I would probably look into the same thing, but it's up to Winstone Wallboards to act in a manner that gets as much board as possible into the market for those customers who are ready to go now. So that's one of the key focuses. And I think it's probably fair to say as well that we are seeing a particular level of demand softening as well coming through. But that will help the situation. But there's still quite a backlog, as you're all no doubt aware, around projects and particularly around delivery services as well. And the last thing I'll just sort of mention around that plan is obviously the new plant, which is in Tauranga, which I'll talk about shortly. Once that comes online, which is currently scheduled for mid next year, but we are doing everything we can to bring that forward. Once that comes online, that provides a significant level of output, which will obviously help alleviate the situation very quickly. So, sorry, next slide there. So just so you're aware, one of the, I guess, the key learnings we've had so far from really being an allocation for really a month and a half now, one of the main points that's come through has been in Auckland around the direct-to-site services and that needing to make sure that orders, for customers are actually ready to go, and there's not, that stock is being used, as quickly as possible. So to give you a bit of a reference, back in June with those direct-to-site services, about 26% of all the orders that were going out were for sites that weren't actually ready. So they were actually turned around and basically shipped to other sites because those sites weren't ready to go. And what I mean by not ready to go is that the sites weren't closed and they weren't ready to actually start lining for a reasonable length of time. That number in July had fallen to around about 16%. So, thank you to those customers for being aware around that and I guess helping us learn around what's the best way to have that site, ready for board. And we're seeing a further improvement in August as well. So that's great. One of the other things that we also had come through, which was a big learning, which was kind of a bit of an oddball thing, was about pallets. So what we're seeing is actually there's a huge amount of pallets that the board goes on. That there's actually a reasonable shortage of those pallets at the moment. So if we don't have pallets, we actually can't manufacture board, and they're very specialised in what they do when you think about the weights that you have to deal with. So that's one of the oddball little things. So I guess the key thing around this is that you've got the big stuff about trying to maximise amounts much board, but it's also the little things that can trip you up as well that we're having to work through. And once again, I really do thank you for the patience and support that you've shown us as an industry to help us all get through this as quickly as we can. I just sort of quickly touch as well around some of the work that MB's done or is doing around plasterboard substitutions and the work they're doing to try and free up supply as well. We're obviously very supportive of that as well, and are helping wherever we possibly can in that space. From our point of view, it's an industry thing, and if we can assist customers with those, with getting board, whether it's ours or somebody else's, then we will try and do that as best we can within the limitations that we have. An example of that is things like the temporary relaxation of some of the trademarks that we have. So you might have sort of heard a little bit of news coverage around the colour of the boards that we hold. So a lot of those trademarks have been relaxed to allow import volume to come in without having to muck around changing faces and all that sort of thing. And it just hopefully makes life a little bit easier for people as that volume starts coming through. Could I just do the next slide, please?
Yeah.
Cool. So I mentioned before as well that's a very quick snapshot of where we are from an allocation point of view. You may have heard some media coverage talking about being out of allocation by October or being in what they call equilibrium, which is open for debate as to what that means. To be honest, I believe a more realistic outcome of when we are in a better supply position or in a position where allocation may be turned off is probably towards the end of this year. But that state is always changing. And as I said, we are trying to do everything we possibly can to get the maximum amount of volume into the market. And if we have an opportunity to do that or to switch things off, then we will obviously take that. But we need to be very careful, how that's enacted, because obviously turning things off could be, a bad outcome if the market isn't ready for it. So we are working as quickly as we can on that. The last thing I was going to just touch on is just to give you a very quick update on the new plant and how that's progressing. So in Tauranga, which is, and there's a place called Tariko, which is where the new plant is. So back in 2019, we were approved to essentially open a new site, which is upwards of $400 million investment. So when that plant comes online, that essentially means that it'll have up to 50% more capacity than the current Auckland site. So the Auckland site that we have now handles about 70% of the volume nationally. And what that means nationally, once that plant's online, is that there'll be a capacity lift initially of about 30%, and it will grow from there. So there is a lot more volume, on the horizon. As a very quick snapshot, where we are now with that site is that approximately 75% of the machinery that's required to make the plasterboard and that sort of thing is on site and in the process of being installed. We've got the production site staff arriving shortly, and then the gypsum, which is our base material, which we make all the board from, is arriving from the end of the year, and then we go through a commissioning phase. So we are on track for basically producing saleable board from about mid-May. And again, if we're able to bring that forward, then we will. And then the plan is the Auckland factory will continue while that other site is operational to give a big lift to board volume in the market. And then the long-term plan is the Christchurch site, the Christchurch factory, which does a lot of our more specialty boards, will go through an upgrade process as well. So that just gives you a bit of a flavour as to where we are, on the allocation side and I guess the future of where GIB is. If you just jump onto the next slide, please. And I've just got a couple of snapshots for you to just give you a bit of a visual on how that plant's progressing. So this was back in May 2021, so essentially a cleared site with the earthworks just being finished. The next slide is from November last year, so you can see the frame and the shell going on. I've got no shots inside because legal won't let me show that. And then the last slide there is just present day of where we are at. So essentially the machinery going in, and you can sort of see the scale of the building side there as well. And to be honest, that's pretty much allocation, and I'll let Dan sort of talk a little bit on the technical side, and then we'll attempt to answer your questions and comments and that side of things at the end of the presentation. So thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Gordon. I'm sorry, just before Dan, you start your part, I'm gonna quickly respond to one inquiry that's popped up on the site. 您好，我不知道您是用手机还是用电脑观看的啊？还有我们在屏幕前正在观看的朋友们，如果您的这个 presentation 的 slides 幻灯片看起来太小了的话，那么您可以单击小屏幕就会变成大屏幕。如果您是用手机的话也是一样啊。单击小的屏幕，它就会变成大屏幕了。基本上是手机跟电脑都可以把幻灯片变成最大的那个屏幕。OK， 好，您这边已经完成了，那非常好，我们可以直播进行继续了。在直播间的朋友们呢，如果您对我们这边有任何问题的话，欢迎您在直播间留言提问，我们会在直播的最后有一个半小时左右的问答的时间来解决大家的问题。如果因为时间关系您的问题没有得到解决的话呢，我们这个嘉宾们也会在直播的结束后通过书面的形式对大家的问题进行回复。我之后会放在我们的交流群里面或者说大家想要私聊我获取答案也是没有问题的。好的，那么我们现在把这个话语权交回给 Dan。Okay, Dan, just whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, thanks, Lily. And yeah, thanks for coming in, guys. So yeah, my name's Dan Reynolds. I'm part of the training and technical team here at Winstone Wallboards. And so yeah, today we're just going to be covering off what a supplement guide is and how best to use them and find them. Some of the updates to our wet area systems literature. It was updated last year, but we're still receiving quite a few queries from customers who maybe aren't aware that it was updated or aware of the changes that are involved. And then, yeah, we'll briefly touch on some of the incoming updates to the Barrierline Intertenancy Systems literature as well. So yeah, firstly, what is a supplement? Well, a supplement is basically a piece of information that is relevant to a specific GIB system that, for whatever reason, hasn't been included in one of our main pieces of literature that we release. I guess because we're constantly developing and testing our systems, we often find improvements that can be made, but these are often found in between literature releases. And if we were to wait until we re-release every piece of literature before we made these changes available for all of our customers, would be, some of these changes wouldn't be being used for months or even years at times. So using the supplements is just a way to continue to improve our systems in between literature releases. We also take feedback from various, whether it's an on-site meeting or even queries coming through on the helpline or even events or webinars like this. We use that sort of feedback to help us to make decisions around what sort of tweaks and improvements we can make to our systems. And then, after we've done that, we can include those within a supplement guide as well. And I guess lastly, one of the main reasons is as to why we wouldn't include something in a piece of literature is that the literature itself will just end up simply being so large that you'd never be able to find anything anyway. For example, our noise control systems book is about 130 pages, and then the noise control system supplement itself is about another 50 odd. So as you can imagine, if we just put every piece of information that we had relating to a specific system into the literature, those books would start to get really large really fast. So I thought I would just do a bit of an exercise and walk through how to find these supplement guides on our website, because if you're not aware, it can sometimes become a bit of a rabbit warren. So firstly you'd so where do we find them? So firstly go to gib.co.nz, that's our website, and then there you go at the top there. And so then you'd click on the systems tab, which is available there. And so once you click on that, it'll bring up a bunch of different options. So if you follow through, great. So then that's all of our different sort of system options, and in there you'll find the fire, noise, bracing, all the rest of it. And for argument's sake today, we'll imagine we're trying to find some extra information about our fire rated systems. So click on that fire rated systems tab, and then this is the page that you would get. At the start there, you can see that's our main piece of literature that you can find. But if you were to scroll down the page further, you'll be able to find the technical literature option. If you clicked on that and opened it up, you'd find a bunch of different items there. But the main two that we'll be looking at, you just see our normal piece of literature, the GIB fire rated systems, and below that is our GIB fire rated systems supplement guide. And once you open that, it's going to have all the extra supplementary information that we'd have that would relate to our fire rated systems. And so once you find that supplement, that's where you get all that extra information. And often we have additional systems or additional details and things like that in there. So definitely worth knowing how to track these down and how to find them for various different things that get released during our literature releases. And speaking of literature releases, our most recent piece of literature that's been updated is our wet area systems guide, which if you scroll ahead, Lily, so you might remember this picture. It's been around for a long time now. That little dude is probably old enough to vote now, so we thought we'd better update the literature, and so we've done that. And so if you keep going ahead, Lily, so that's what the new piece of literature looks like, a bit smarter. And so there's a few tweaks that have gone into that piece of literature. The main ones being around tile weights and limitations there. So previously you used to be able to put tile weights of up to 20 kilos per square meter onto 10 mil GIB Aqualine, and tile weights of up to 32 kgs per square meter onto 13 mil GIB Aqualine. But as you can see from the table down below, these weights have been increased up to 26 kgs on 10 mil Aqualine and 40 kgs per square meter on 13 mil GIB Aqualine. That 40 kgs per square meter, that's a really heavy tile. I mean, anything heavier than 40 kgs per square, you're starting to look at things like natural stone and things like that, where your substrate's going to have to be really, really quite grunty. So
sorry, Dan,
that 40 kgs is
great. Can I interrupt a little bit?
Sure.
I just would like to highlight something for the audience for today. 刚才Dan 说的这个 wet area， 尤其是 Aqualine 的这个 per square meter total weight 的这个东西，其实挺重要的，因为咱们设计师也好，包括 builder 也好，我们在盖房子的时候，有很多人有时候忽略到这个 Aqualine 就尤其是我们在做这个fully tile 的时候，大家可能会忽略掉考虑到重量的因素。因为这个 Aqualine 它每平方米用的这个 tiled weight 是有限定的，超出这个重量范围之外呢，对这个内墙板是有一定的伤害作用。所以说也请大家 bear in mind， 就是说，多留心你所用的这个 bathroom 的这个 tile 的平方米的重量，它是有限定的，有 limit 的。OK。
Yeah, great. And so through the further testing that we've done with GIB Aqualine and how it performs, we've also relaxed the fastener centers as well. That used to be 100 millimeters, used to be the maximum fastener centers for use on tiled walls, but we've increased that up to 150 millimeters now, which it may not seem like a lot, 50 millimeters, but over the course of a full bathroom, we know you might be tiling the whole thing. That's a pretty big saving on screws, and also a pretty big saving on time as far as screwing all that lining off. And so yeah, lastly, we thought we'd cover off the GIB Intertenancy Barrier Systems literature, and we currently have our literature awaiting a brands appraisal for our updated literature. But there are a few things that we can talk about briefly about what will be included in the new literature. So yeah, if you carry on ahead there, Lily. There you go. Yeah, new edition coming very soon. How exciting! So yeah, the first thing we'll see included in the new literature, it's a construction checklists. And I guess although from what we see, and Terry and I are constantly going out and seeing builders who are doing Barrierline maybe for the 10th time, but there are still some that are doing it for the first time. And so although there are a lot of builders that have a very good understanding of how the GIB Barrierline systems all go together, yeah, we still do come across guys that are doing it for the first time. And so having a construction checklist just makes sure that there's going to be things that potentially could be missed or not done correctly that aren't going to cause problems later on. So there'll be those checklists will be available. Also, there'll be 2 load-bearing steel frame systems in there. We do have some steel frame Barrierline systems available currently, but they're non-load bearing at this stage. And so yeah, there'll be load bearing systems available as well. And now we'll also be looking at having some alternative wall laminate options for the for maintaining the fire rating within that roof space. Now these will be utilising 13mm fire line and 13mm weather line to do that. Exactly how that looks will be revealed in due time when the book comes out. But there'll be some options to improve the way that works. That'll be a little bit easier than carrying 16mm GIB fire line up to the 3rd floor. And also we're going to have some options for when only a 30-minute fire rating is required. There'll be some different wall laminate options for in the roof space there as well. And also the team have been working really hard to put together a whole lot of new construction details that'll be in the literature as well. Specifically, there'll be some split roof detail junctions, cantilevered mid floors, which was a really big one, and there was a lot of testing and research went into that and putting those details together. And again, that was something that was just really customer driven on developing these details. So we had so many requests for those cantilevered mid-floor details that we really had to put in some work to make sure that we could deliver on that. And then also virtually all the construction details where there's intersections with an external wall, they've basically been doubled up so that you'll have the option to have, whether it be just a flexible wall underlay or building paper, or the GIB Weatherline rigid air barrier systems included. So for designers, and that'll be nice and easy to use those details with the GIB Weatherline as well. And yeah, that's basically the technical update that I've got there. So yeah, thanks, Lily.
Thank you. Cool. 那在 Terry 开始他的这个关于工地接收石膏板的准备流程之前我再次提醒我们正在观看直播的朋友们，如果您有问题的话，请抓紧时间在我们的直播间进行提问过了这村可能就没这店了，因为现在我们GIB的整个的 team 也是非常的忙碌，因为这个新的 allocation 以及他们的 system 上的一些 update让很多时候，除非你有特别特别紧急的问题，不然如果您想要一个比较快速的对您的一些疑问的及时的回应的话，今天的直播就是您最好的机会。OK 那 Terry 在这边还有没有什么对上面2点想要补充的呢？
有那个Dan 刚才讲的这个其实也是咱们Auckland area 很多华人朋友们关注的这个问题，就是关于这个30 minutes FRR 的这个 update。之前我们也出过一些 supplement 在网上，现在也跟 Council 在进行这个 discussion。Anyway， 就像 Dan 说的，这个 new edition coming very soon， 大家稍安勿躁，会给大家带来惊喜，尤其是补充了一些 detail， 比如说 cantilever 的，还有一些尤其这个30 minutes FRR 的这个 update， 会是一个非常好的补充。对。
好，那我们要不要开始进行您的部分？这个工地接触的。好的，可以看到吗？
看到了。谢谢丽丽。大家好。
没关系。
我是 Terry， 我是 GIB Winstone Wallboards Auckland Area Sales Manager。我下来我就简单的说几点内容，是关于咱们这个建筑工地如何准备好接收石膏板订单。因为最近一些案例呢，包括刚才 Golden 的 previous slide 也证明了，就是说我们之前还是工地多多少少出现了一些问题，导致了这个 deliver 的failure和延迟。所以说我想首先给大家谈一谈这方面的内容。首先呢，我建议大家如果有时间的话，去我们的官方网站 www.gib.co.nz 去 search 并下载这个2份文件，名字叫 plasterboard ready site， 还有另外一份叫 is your site plasterboard ready， 只有2个非常简单的 flyers， 简单的介绍了如何让你的工地准备好接受石膏板的这个送货。我相信大家阅读过这2份文件之后呢，会对这个delivery 的工地条件有充分的了解，大大提高这个我们 DTS delivery 送货的成功率，避免不必要的成本。OK， 下一个 slide。其次呢，我想跟大家聊一下，就是当您通过您的建材店下单完成，又被告知 OK 订单已经 process 了，我建议大家呢，通过你用的这个 merchant 的建材店去要一份order confirmation 的 copy。我这里手里有一个只打出来的一个比较简易的一个 sample， 大家可以看一下，就这样一个 order confirmation， 上面涵盖了非常多重要的信息。首先呢，在这个 order confirmation 的上半页会包括你 order 的 reference number， 包括你的工地的送货地址、联系人的姓名、电话、delivery date、delivery type。比如说这个 confirmation 会告诉你您订的是 standard truck 还是 standard extra labor 或者是 high up。所以我请大家呢务必要了解您的 delivery 是否包含了 extra labors， 就是我们说的这个工地的搬板工人。那么在这个 confirmation 的下半页的内容栏里边，就会告诉您订了具体什么产品、什么尺寸、多少数量，甚至告诉你总重量是多少。同时我想强调一点，就是在这个内容栏里面有一项非常重要的内容，就在这个地方呢会显示出来你的 delivery 的 instruction， 我们也称之为 on-site distribution details， 就是说比如说你的板子怎么 split 成楼上楼下，放到你工地这个 building 的哪个 area 哪个房间，或者有什么其他的具体要求等等。这些 delivery instruction 呢和 detail 我想强调一下哈，就是说这些 delivery 具体的这个 instruction 的 detail 需要包含在您的 confirmation 里边，就是说您在下单的时候请通过建材店清晰的表述如果呢您是在送货临时提出来的这些要求，那么这些运送团队有可能就是没有这个能力和条件去完成的。 所以呢，请大家呢认真的核对这个 confirmation 里边的信息，确定各项信息准确无误，清楚，非常的 accurate。如果您发现和您当初下的初始订单有任何的差异，请您及时联系您使用的这个 merchant 建材店的销售团队，及时和我们取得联系，做出及时的修改。Okay, next slide, please.
Terry，想请问一下，咱们这个 confirmation 的form 它不是在 GIB 官网上，而是在建材店去下单的时候来填的，对吗？
这个 confirmation 的 copy 是当建材店把单子送到了 GIB， 我们的系统呢 process 了这个订单，就是确定了这个订单的送货日期delivery schedule。那我们的系统会 automatically generate 一个这样的 copy， 返回到您下单的建材店的这个终端，那他们会收到这个 confirm，对。
好的，明白。那有一位朋友问说我们这个 delivery instruction 有没有中文版的呀？
我说的这个 delivery 有的，您说的是这个我开始介绍的就是 is your site plaster ready。Golden 的团队，我们的这个 marketing team， 这2份都已经翻译成了有中文原件。就说如果客户需要的话，我们在节目的后面，我愿意留下我的 email address， 大家需要的话，我会发给您这个Mandarin 版本，就是我们中文版本的这个工地说明。
那我们现在幻灯片显示的这一页，就是从 GIB 的官网上可以找到吗？还是说必须要联系你？
不用，这个
2个途径。
English copy 是在我们 GIB 官网上，你就是只要去那个搜索栏里边 search ready site， 那它会自动 bounce up 出来这个 copy。
好的，明白。好，也感谢这位朋友的问题
然
后我们可以进行下一页吗？
好的，下一个 slide please。
谢谢。
对，然后就是第3点，刚才我们说了你去 check 你的 order confirmation copy。那第3点这个 tip 呢，我是建议大家在下单的时候呢，也去 book 一个免费的工地检查。我们说这个叫 site inspection， 对吧？这个 site inspector 就是我们的员工，我们的 site inspector 会在您的 delivery date 之前，就送货日期的前几日与您取得联系，到现场实地帮您检查工地是否满足石膏板 deliver 的这个送货条件。如果呢 inspector 在现场发现有任何因素可能会导致这个 delivery 的 fail 失败，那他会在现场和您解释并且指出来如何进行改进。比如说脚手架呀、垃圾箱或者说access 是否通畅driveway 等等楼梯这些东西。可能有些时候大家会感觉在现场和我们的 inspector沟通起来不太顺畅，或者说是担心没有完全理解他们所提出来的这些问题我说大家也不要紧张，为什么呢？因为在每一个 site inspection 完成之后呢，系统里边会 generate 一份 site inspection report， 这个 report 里边就有这个工地具体的状况、照片以及需要修改和改进的内容extra notes。 大家可以通过您下单的建材店去获取这份 report， 按照里边的这个要求，就在送货之前让您的工地来满足这个送货要求，避免不必要的麻烦我想说的就是几点。总之就是希望大家呢能够对我们这个DTS delivery 的之前的这个工地呢做好应对，做好准备，然后提高我们这个送货的效率和成功率。
好，那针对这个的ready site 的这个，我想问一下 Terry，咱们的这个具体的 inspection 的这个要求是跟咱们新的分配制度的原因所产生的新的要求，还是说它将会成为一个常态呢？
首先 site inspection 就是我在开始说有2份这个 document， 其中有一份 document 是我们一直在 run， 和 allocation 没有关系，就是这么多年了keep running 的一个 standard， 里边有告诉你比如说最基本的工地的一些准备的一些内容脚手架、垃圾箱这些东西。当然应对 allocation， 在2022年我们推出了一份新的 update 的一个更详细的内容，就是针对我们当时说的叫 plaster ready site， 就是我们要求的一个 叫 weatherproof 的一个概念，就是说当您的工地确实到了上基博板的阶段，只是引入了这样一个概念，所以您可以发现有2个 copy， 这2个 copy 都非常有用。
明白。好，那我可以再问一下吗？就是说我们从订货，然后以及去定这个 inspection 的时间，它的这个时间点上大概是一个什么样的长度呢？比如说你是订了货之后再定 inspection， 隔几个周定，还是说同时定？
不是，
以及他们
是在下单的时候，我们建议大家在这个 place 你的 order 的时候就去 book 这个 site inspection。site inspection 的时间呢，通常会在当我们录入了你这个订单 confirm 了这个送货时间 ，site inspection 通常会在送货前4到5个工作日，这是现阶段是这个时间来去完成它。对。
明白。那其实就是说，当您 book 了这个inspection 之后，就可以让自己的 site manager 根据 site check 的这些要求，去将自己的工地进行准备，然后保证 inspection 来的时候，你们的工地是符合条件的。是这样子的一个流程。
对，根据 inspection 的要求准备好之后，保证 deliver 的时候工地是顺畅顺利的。
明白。好的，没有问题。看一下还有没有下一页。好的，现在我们这个演讲的正式的演讲内容已经结束了啊，然后欢迎朋友们开始留言，然后我这边也开始问一下我们群内收集到的几个问题。有一些是英文留言的，有一些是中文留言的啊，我就根据最近收到的开始往上说。有一位朋友问说如果我的工地明年开工，那么我现在是不是已经就要让 builder 去 order 呢？就是让我的 site manager 去 order， 还是说要先付定金？这个应该我感觉是个开发商的朋友问的问题啊。
我想说什么呢？就是首先你说明年开工，我不知道您说明年开工是具体几月份哈，但是Golden 就是我们的 marketing 团队，尤其是 Golden 在做这个，咱们就暂时先说 allocation， 在这个 model 下的这个这个方案，就是说每一个月份，比如说从7月、8月、9月都有相对应的下单窗口。就是说，我就建议开发商朋友和您使用的建材店的销售团队保持一个良好的沟通，他们会知道您到底什么时候需要下这个单子。去多听您使用的建材店销售的建议，会更准确一些。
明白。明白。好，希望这位朋友正在直播间啊，然后也听到了我们就是给您的建议，一定要跟自己的建材店的这个 account manager 保持比较好的沟通也不用过度担忧，因为就是 Gordon 刚刚说的，我们可能会 expect by the end of this year 这个 allocation 的制度就会有可能会退出市场，希望我们能够一切如常的就恢复到之前正常的这个订货流程，是这样子的，对吗？
对，Golden 讲是这样，因为 allocation 本身的目的就是想让资源更有效、更合理的去分配，因此而已。
明白的。好。然后还有一位朋友说 ，Some of my barrierline has been out in the rain. Is that going to be okay? Is this a Golden question, a Dan question, or if it's for Terry?
I'm happy to take that, guys.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah. So I guess the short answer, the question I've got asked back is how long has it been left out on the rain? Because Barrierline's designed to be exposed to the weather for up to 3 months. So
right.
If it's been exposed for less than 3 months, then that's not a problem. But once it gets outside of that 3 months, that's when, realistically, it's not going to be okay. But we can come out and do sort of some case-by-case assessments on the condition of the board once it goes beyond that 3-month time frame.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Hope that person is watching the webinar right now, so they would know they shouldn't be putting them out for too long.
Yeah.
OK. 那么下一个问题，有朋友问说，现在这个 allocation system 大概要多久可以 expect delivery？ 是就是3个月还是多长时间？
现在的 allocation 的窗口，我们是直接发给各个 merchant， 就是这个建材店的。我们举个例子，之前8月份从7月1号开始 allocation delivery，是5月份下的单，然后8月份的 delivery 是6月份下的单。 所以说它会有一些变化，具体的内容和 updates，它使用的建材店的销售会告诉他们。
明白。然后有一位朋友，我觉得这个不知道您这个问题是不是认真的哈？什么时候可以 drop price？
首先说GIB的 price， 它的 price 不是我们决定的，这个问题他应该去问他的建材销售店。
I'd also jump in that one as well and just ask the question of when did we last increase the price? Sort of someone's talking about steel dropping and that sort of things, but steel over the last couple of years has had some pretty significant increases as well. Plasterboard, probably hasn't gone up by anywhere near the same extent.
Yeah. So Terry was saying that the price should highly relate to relative to the merchants they're ordering.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, at the end of the day, we will try and be as competitive as you possibly can, but you just have to look at the international side of it and where those prices are at. I mean, it's not so much the board; it's obviously the freight side of it that is really playing havoc for importing materials over, as everyone knows.
Yeah. And another question. This probably has been asked by lots of people, especially when there's a really high demand of GIB but a kind of shortage of supply. There are people they're using plasterboard from overseas, but that's not GIB. So in terms of that, do you guys have anything that you want to say to this? I will just quickly translate this question. 因为其实在过去的一段时间，可能尤其是今年年中之前啊，因为GIB的一个这个供应短缺的问题，有很多朋友包括在微信群里面也有看到，有很多人说我有这个其他地方生产的GIB，也不是GIB，就是石膏板，还有一些从国内运过来的石膏板。那么这个我可不可以用了之后我会承担什么样的风险，或者是导致我的有没有可能潜在的一些问题啊？所以今天我们也可以就是进行一个官方的了解。Okay, pass it back to you, Gordon.
Oh, okay. Okay. So really when it comes down to, I guess, substitution of board and that side of things and systems, I mean, the GIB product is all tested for a specific outcome. So if we're talking bracing and fire and that sort of thing, there's a performance requirement to it. So that's what we've tested to. If customers want to swap out boards for other alternatives and that sort of thing, they just really need to check that with that supplier that product is able to do that. And if I use maybe Barrierline as an example, if you were to use Barrierline and then say swap out the ceiling lining for a non-GIB product, you would need to check with that supplier that their product will still perform. We can't guarantee because we haven't tested that product and that's not our place to be. I guess I would liken it to if you were taking over a build project from another builder for whatever reason, you more than likely wouldn't probably be in a position to guarantee their work or what's gone on and things you haven't been personally accountable for. So I know that sounds like a bit of a cop-out, but that's the reality, is that if we haven't tested it, we can't offer guarantees and warranties behind it. That's really where it is.
Yeah, but in terms of console, if you have to, like on your base say, you have to use GIB, but then they ended up using a not branded product, but also plasterboard.
That's up to
they're gonna
that's ultimately up to the council as to what they accept. I mean, we can't dictate. I mean, we have to comply with what council regulations are as well. So we can't tell them how to operate and what to accept. And we have to play by the same rules as everyone else. So ultimately, and again, I know that sounds like a cop-out, but the reality of that is that the final say-so on what's approved and what's not, comes from the likes of MB and comes from council as well. So everyone needs to play by those rules, and ultimately they'll be the gatekeepers as to what they will accept and what they won't.
Yeah. Fair enough. Thank you for your explanation. And Terry, 请问你对这个问题你有什么要补充的吗？
没有，我觉得 Gordon 解释的特别好，就是 我们的系统测试过的，我们只能去讨论我们自己的系统，至于其他的，像Gordon所说的，not our call。对。
Okay. Just one more question before we may be able to finish the presentation earlier than we expected. There's someone saying, due to the delay, the weather line being installed will be soon exceed its 180 days. What can I do with it? I'm not 100% sure what he's asking because I probably don't know as much. Right. Yeah, do you guys get the question?
Yep.
Yeah, I can jump in there. This basically the same as for the barrier line question we had earlier. If the weather line does start, I would recommend, even if you're not quite at that 6-month time frame, but you're anticipating that you will be, get in touch with us and we can pop out and have a look, or provide some sort of guidance. If you have gone over that 6-month time frame, yeah, definitely get in touch with us because we can come out and have a look. And depending on the site situation and what's been going on, we have had a number of sites where the weather line has been okay beyond that 6-month time frame, but it would require a specific inspection to double check that.
Yeah, and I guess just to clarify as well, I mean, as an example, we've had weather line sheets out, for what are we now? Probably, Dan, 2.5 years, somewhere in there.
Yeah, even close to 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that is still performing exactly as intended, being fully exposed to the weather. So I guess what we would say is, just to reinforce Dan's point, is when you do get to those limitation periods or heading up to it, just please get in contact. We're more than happy to come and have a look because 9 times out of 10 it's not really going to be an issue, but it would be better just to have a glance at it to understand what's happening, just for your own peace of mind, and you'd include that for barrier line as well. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Cool. Thank you. 那么其实到目前为止，这些以上的5-6个问题就是我今天收集到的，在群内的一些朋友提出的，也非常感谢我们嘉宾们今天空出这40多分钟的时间，给我们带来一些关于 GIB 的重大更新。希望在直播间的朋友也帮到了您工地上或者是项目上正在进行的问题。如果您在未来有什么样的疑问的话，也可以通过直播详情页去找到我们各位嘉宾的联系方式，他们都分别有自己不同的职责然后您有什么关于自己项目的疑问，也可以通过邮件的方式向他们寻求帮助。Okay, guys, it's actually more chill than I expected, which is probably a good thing. Yeah, is there anything else you guys? Yeah, is there anything else you guys may want to add to the presentation today?
Not from my end. I mean, I guess I would again like to reiterate, thank you for your patience, and everything that's gone on was obviously less than ideal for anyone, but we are working as quickly as we can through the merchant channels to try and resolve this. It is a long road, and I think it's fair to say a lot of learnings have been taken. But thank you for your for the high level of assistance, and to be honest, a lot of the compassion that you guys have shown towards us. We really do appreciate it, and those aren't just weasel words from our end. We do generally feel for you guys, and we do everything we possibly can to get out of this thing as quickly as we can.
感谢大家对我们的理解和支持。实话实说，现在尤其是冬天，经常下雨，确实工地管理非常的不容易，我们都理解。我们不是埋怨大家，我们只是感谢大家。其实大家都在努力，都在尽力去使这个项目进行下去。希望大家一切顺利吧。我们也会更努力的去尝试一些东西。
特别实在的话。好，那么今天就到了我们公开课的尾声了，非常感谢您的关注，尤其是对 GIB 这方面的一些消息，我们也会通过直播间这样的一个比较便民的渠道去给大家带来尽量多中文版本的一些解读。好，那么我们本期公开课到这里就先跟大家说再见了。为了保证您可以持续收到建筑会公开课的未来资讯，请您点击屏幕上方的关注主播，这样的话不会迷路。我们每周四基本上都会有一场3点半的这个公开课直播，关于我们建筑行业里面的一些更新。好，那么下周周四我们同样不见不散，有一场关于这个轻型外墙的主题也在等着大家。谢谢您的关注，那么我们今天的直播到这里就跟大家说再见了，我们下周四3点半不见不散。Thank you guys for your presentation today. Hopefully we'll see you soon in the future.
Cheers. Thanks very much.
Yes, see you guys. Bye. 谢谢大家，再见。
Bye bye.